Hi everyone, this is Steffi from Rapid Property Connect. Today we are honored to have Professor Max Shankar here to share with you on the topic on how smart investors make money from development. So hope you guys enjoy the session. Hi Max.
Hi, Steffi.
Yeah, can I start the presentation?
Sure, no problem. Welcome everyone. Today, right after the first presentation on our global investment, I think a lot of people start to inquire us how to actually implement the PILC strategy into a global investment platform. Okay, let me recap a bit on our previous PILC. Basically, property investment life cycle is talking about land acquisition, construction, management, renovation, refurbishment, and redevelopment. And all this strategy actually we have been proven in various countries like in Hong Kong, Bali for land acquisition, construction in Malaysia, management in UK, also in Japan, renovation we have deployed this strategy in US, refurbishment in Germany, and redevelopment in New Zealand. So today, right, we're going to touch more on the second strategies, how this construction and also development can help us to make more money as a joint development. All right. So we talk about the property development life cycle. I think it's fair to everyone to understand how this property investment come into the pictures. Number one is people always say the property prices increase over time. Yes, the value increase over time, but what really happened as a developer? When they bought a land, they will do a zoning, a planning, they will do a conversion and all that. Then after that, they will put up an infrastructure like public utilities, like electricity, water, sewerage and all that. Then only the construction will take place. In some countries, a developer and a builders are two different entities. But most of the developing countries, right, developer will play a role from land acquisition, planning, infrastructure and construction. Then only they will sell to the home buyers or the retail investors. So basically why we are looking the opportunity as a developer is that property prices increase over time as a developer because the value been added to the whole land until the construction. But as a retail investors, right, when we bought the properties, basically is subject to the market forces. So when the property market is boom, everybody are making money. But during this hard time, the market are slow. So people are bleeding investment. Sometimes they cannot sell, they can't even rent it out. So that's why there's a lot of risk that end investors are facing. So that's why we always encourage the investors try to be a core developer. But to become a developer, right, it's not easy. You must have tons of capital. You must have a team of expertise. You must know every in and out of the whole property development. And sad to say that not everyone are master in this industry. So how we can leverage on this? So we become a core developer. So how we can develop with the developers? Basically, we need to understand what are the developer financing options. As a developer, or most of the developers, they always go to the bank and obtain for financing, or here we call it as a bridging loan. And the facilities, right, basically only approved at 50 to 60% of the whole gross development cost. Second is a progressive drawdown. So that's why you see a lot of developers, right, especially they are over gearing. They can't even pay on their installments. Okay, and then the interest charged immediately. And then the worst part is the facility can be recalled at any time. That's why you see some of the developers, right, they're stuck in all these situations. I give you for example, like in Malaysia, there's a lot of top tier developers. They are over geared. So you just imagine if let's say they are gearing at 1 billion ringgit, which is normal for top tier developers, the interest is about 5-6%. So you just imagine the yearly interest, we are looking at 50-60 million. Per month is already about 5-6 million. So during the soften of the markets, how this developer going to pay the installment? That also you see a lot of developers are facing challenging moment now. So what we as a joint developer will come into the picture, we act as a private equities. So all this capital needed by the developers, we give them 100% upfront. Second, they get this capital and profit only pay at the end of the development. So basically, we are very friendly to the developers. That's why most of the developers, right, they prefer this kind of private equities. And based on the research, about 30% of the whole market in this world, basically the developers are getting financing from the private equities because of all these benefits they are enjoying. And then this strategy is very easy. Number one, it has to be very secure. So whatever development that we're participating, rule number one is we never lose our capital. And rule number two, remember rule number one. So it has to be very secure investment. Second, we are buying below market value so that it gives a cushion for us during a downtime. At least whatever we have bought is still below market, false market value. So at least we have a room. If we are buying at par during the soften of the market, basically everybody are rushing to sell, rushing to rent it out. So we face a lot of challenges. And then of course the demand and supply is always the crucial important points. We don't want to participate in a place that the demand is less than the supply. Who you want to build for, that is very important. And then of course number four is assured capital acquisition. In a place that the high population density, the location density, it always create the demand. And by doing this, we know that the capital acquisition is always there because there's a huge demand there. And of course, when it comes to investment, especially when we talk about global investment, the exit strategy has to be very, very clear. A lot of people 5 years back or 10 years back, they're very fancy about buying lands in overseas, especially in a place that, you know, one of the largest land bank in the world. So what is your exit strategies? That's why all these poor investors, they are stuck with their investment for past 5-10 years. So we need to know that what is our exit strategies. Of course, when it comes to portfolio management, there's a short-term, mid-term, and long-term. Unless we are prepared for a long-term investment, then it's good. But most of the time, people choose for short-term because nowadays the market changes so fast. There's no longer a long-term is a better for whatever. All right. And then of course, low capital outlay, especially when we invest in overseas. A lot of times it requires capital of like hundreds or millions of dollars. So how we structure this joint development is that everyone can invest now with as little as only like 10,000 Sing dollar or NZD. Right? It's within a lot of people's reach. And of course, when it comes to investment, it has to be hassle-free and no hidden costs. We have come across so many investment portfolio products that are very good return, maybe 10% a year. But when you look at the fine details, there's a management fee of 5-6% or whatever per year or upon exit. So whatever you make after you minus your management fee or those hidden costs, basically what you're getting is nothing better than in a local investment. So you need to study all this, especially tax also part of the cost. So once you understand the whole joint development, let us use this Indonesia as a case study. And why we talk about Indonesia? Actually, there are a lot of investors are going to Indonesia, especially when the new ruling on the foreigners can own landed property in Indonesia. So we look about Indonesia as a whole. Basically, they are the 15th largest land in the world. The population is the 4th in the world and the largest in Southeast Asia. And the GDP, the PPP is 8th in the world, means they have more money to spend compared to a lot of countries. For example, like Malaysia, our GDP, PPP is about 800 billion. We are only number 28, but Indonesia is number 8 in the world. So there's a huge opportunity actually we can tap to this Indonesia market. All right. So this new regulation, right, what really happened is that end of last year, basically the President Jokowi have signed this new government regulation, allowed the foreigners to own landed properties in Indonesia. Previously, foreigners only able to own houses if they are working there or living there with a permit. But today, right, any foreigners you can buy there. Right, the only thing is a leasehold. They call it as a right of use or hak pakai. It's up to 80 years. The only setback is that during this entire period, if you want to rent it out or sell it, you have to sell it within this period. And if you leave the country for more than 1 year, then basically the Indonesian government has the right to confiscate the house. So basically you need to plan on this as well. All right. And a lot of people, they're asking why after the new ruling have been implemented, MCM, basically we don't go to Jakarta, but we go to Bali. Let me share with you on this Bali market, which we hope that you see the same way as we do. Number one is, although Indonesia is the largest Muslim country in the world, but Bali, 83% are Hindu. Right? So it's a very unique culture in Bali. And of course, the population is almost 5 million people. And most of the time, right, people are going to Denpasar, where the Kuta, the Hard Rock, on the southern part of Bali. And the second largest capital actually is the Singaraja, or these regencies. And you look at these interesting facts. Indonesia yearly tourist arrival is about 9 million people, but Bali already contribute almost 50% on these figures. So I give you a very good example. If let's say Malaysia, our yearly international tourist arrival is about 30 million people. You just imagine if 50% or 50 million people are going to Penang Island. What do you think of the Penang Island market in terms of the property prices, the cost of living? That's why Bali is one of the most expensive cities in Indonesia. In some cases, actually some of the foods and all that are more expensive than Jakarta because it's an international tourist city. And of course, Malaysian, Australian, Chinese are among the top tourists in their list. So this gives a very good opportunity for us because the Chinese are there. In fact, this year, Chinese is the top in the list, right? The number one. And despite the international tourist arrival, basically the domestic or those Indonesian are also visiting Bali tremendous. There's about 7.1 million people. It's a very interesting fact to know that actually Bali is a world tourist city. That's why when you talk about Bali to anyone in the world, basically most of them, they heard about this place. And the opportunity come into the picture is, of course, tourism is number one industry in Bali. You look at the whole Southeast Asia, when we talk about diving, when you talk about this surfing, is one of the hotspots. And another interesting fact is that when we talk about dolphin, to see dolphins, most of the time we will always relate to New Zealand or Australia. But in Southeast Asia, one of the only places that you can see dolphin is in Bali. Don't you think it's very interesting? Because dolphin is an animal that always look for calm, peaceful places. So Bali provides such a place. And of course, because of the huge development on the southern part, it becomes so congested that also the government try to develop on the northern part. Northern part used to be the heaven for divers and all that. But now the government want to develop. So those days, if you're traveling from the southern part to the northern part, it will take you about 3 hours driving. But once this is a highway, they are in the midst of constructing a new highway, which shall be completed by 2018. So it takes only about 1 hour's drive from the southern part to the Singaraja. And recently, actually, there's a new announcement. Okay, that will be one of the first floating airport in Southeast Asia on the northern part of Bali, in Buleleng, which is only about 1 hour to our this new development site. All right, so there's a huge opportunity that basically are happening on the northern part of Bali. So as a smart investors, if you want to know when is the or where is the right place to invest, I think now and on the northern part of Bali, all right, while the Bali are still cheap. And another interesting fact is, just now we talk about capital acquisition. In most of the countries, they already over the booming era. Like I still remember the property price in Malaysia. For a normal condo of 200,000 within the 3-5 years, it boosts up to about 500,000. But some places is oversupply and the price are stagnant or on the downside. Basically, when you look at the Bali, from 25 until 2012, the property acquisition is more than 800%. That is 100% year-on-year acquisition. And the interesting fact is, this is way before the new ruling of the foreignership. The foreign can own property in Indonesia. So we also foresee that the new chart will improve or increase tremendous after the new ruling. Why? There are so many reasons. One of the main reasons is that a lot of rich foreigners, like just now you saw the top in the list, like those are Australian, Chinese, Basically, they are buying properties in Indonesia, especially Bali, as a holiday home. That's why it's a place for them to show flag their trophies. So we see after this new ruling, the property prices there will increase tremendous as well. All right. And this is a favorite website that we always see the property prices in Bali, called Bali Realty. Basically, when you look at this Bali, right, the landscape is such 15% last year. There's a lot of development. And when you look at the interesting facts, Asian buyers are no doubt a sleeping giant for Indonesia, because Indonesia being the largest population in Southeast Asia and the international tourist city for Bali is a huge playground for all these rich people to buy properties, and this is where we see that it's a good place for us to buy property for acquisition or even for this rental acquisition. All right, it's a huge market. When you talk about property, just now we see the property development life cycle. As end investors, when we buy the completed units, is subject to the market forces. Market good, property price increase. Market soft, property price stagnant. Market down, the property prices down. But you look at the whole land, all right, with the first strategy, the land acquisition. Interesting to know that phase most developed per acre is about 3.4 million US dollar. It's not cheap. All right, it's comparable to a lot of capital in the world. And you compare to the northern part, which is now is very still undeveloped. If you look at the property prices on the southern part and the northern part, let's say property prices in the southern part cost you about 500,000. In the northern part, you may bought the same property at a price of 300,000 or 400,000. There's still about 20-30% difference. But you look at the land, the southern part is 3.4 million, but on the northern part is 3.2 million. It's a very small gap. That's why land investment actually is one of the best if you know where to invest, like islands, Hong Kong, Japan, Singapore, and Bali, right? Because there's so little land available for development. One is developed, you can't do much unless you do a reclaim and all that, all right? But Bali, they really preserve this beautiful island, so don't see much of a land reclamation. And when we talk about Bali, right, basically some they call it as a Devata Islands or Island of Gods. You see, it's very peaceful, the energy there, right? And the development that we are talking about is about 610 acres land on the northern part of Bali, where if you know Matahari Resort, actually is very close to Matahari Resort. It's a 6-star resort. And the market value just now you saw is about 3 million per acres. So the land value easily about 1.8 billion US dollar. You remember the rule, the second rule of this property investment, we always buy below market value. So the same thing as a development. Whatever the joint venture, the landowner have to inject the land to this development at much below market value. All right, so this is how to safeguard the interest of the JV partners. So that's why the inject value is about only 700 million. It's way below of the market value. All right, and it's a very beautiful place that you have a 3-kilometer seafront. There's so many things you can do with a 3-kilometer seafront, resorts, hotels, and all that. The water sport facilities. So that's why we see with this land, right, actually there's a lot of development that we can do. And of course, it comes with a spring water as well. So you look at the whole entire land, it's about 95% are flat land. So no need to worry on how to do the removing the mountains or whatever. So when we come to development, actually all these will add into the cost. If the land condo is a mountain and hills, there's so much of earthwork have to do. And you look at all these pictures, right, basically it's taken at a site, right? It's a very beautiful. You look at the sea, the beach and all that, right? And the landowners, okay, the one of the founder of these landowners, basically not Indonesian, but is Dutch. In 1918, 2 more years, they're celebrating 100 years. So in 1953, when the Dutch forced to leave Indonesia, basically it passed to the government and passed to the governor. All right. So this piece of land basically currently owned by the ex-governor of Bali. And he also ex-general of Indonesia, and he is the Bali Hinduism leaders. You look at this whole connect, they say in China, Guanxi. The same thing also apply in Malaysia and Indonesia. So Indonesia, you need to know who is the landowners. Sorry, if it's privately owned by individuals, when you do such a mega development, you need a lot of connections. If this land is not because it belongs to the ex-Bali governors, there's a lot of things that we cannot do. All right. And then the second thing is the co-founder of this development company, Master Patrick, is a Malaysian who's been teaching for this Qi or positive energy for the past 20 years. So when the landowner see the ideas of having the world's first energy cities, he buy the ideas, and a lot of rich people, right, when they invest into business, sometimes it's not because of the return on investment or what is the profit. It's for him, this Pak Oka, the owner, he just purely want to leave a legacy. He want to be part of the world's first energy cities. So that's where he contribute the land for the development purpose. And the second partner, the co-founder of this development, is a Pak Nanang, who represent Indonesian government to Middle East trade and all that. Okay, and he is a property king, but it's not a property developers. So that's where the opportunity come to us when there is a need for development. And most important is all the legal documentation have been done, and the land actually, the zoning already approved for residential and commercial. Another obstacles that we see in a lot of countries, right, is come to conversion, you getting the approvals, the time that it takes sometimes, so the cost, it will really kill the developments. So the interesting part in Indonesia is all these are already been obtained, so it fastens the whole development process. And of course, because these are whole projects, they're going to become the landmark on the northern part of Bali. So you have to obtain the approval and support from the top, including the governments. So basically, they already present this project in Parliament House, get a clearance, get an endorsement from the Parliament, from the Indonesian government, and of course support from the advisor for Ministry of Tourism, because they see this project, right, basically will create more job opportunities to the people who are staying on the northern part of Bali, which is currently a nelayan or fisherman village. So when this project take place, actually it will create a huge opportunity to all these people on the northern Bali. And one part of this project, right, basically we will have a movie production plant. That's why Ibu Sandra, who is the head of Indonesian Celebrity Association, also part of this whole projects. And another interesting thing is people ask, what is all this world energy city and all this about? When you look at the population of the world increasing year on year, that's why a lot of people become so stressful, so emotional, so fear, losing the freedom, losing their job, losing the security, and all this drive the energies become unbalanced. That's why a lot of people, right, they're going to all this holiday, retreat, whatever, recharge, right? And naturally, Bali is the preferred place because of the ambience, because of the atmosphere, because of the energies that they have it in this beautiful island. And you look at the whole development, basically what they're going to do is there are about 10 components. Number one is the energy tower, which create the positive energies. It's basically like alignment of the earth, the moon and all that. That's create a different kind of electromagnetic fields. And second is in a beautiful place, beachfront. So hotels, resorts automatically are in the master plan. And cultural park where you see the world cultures, the residentials, people are buying the property to stay, the studios, apartments. City of Light is where the 24 hours entertainment components. But of course, it's all these are positive entertainment. There's no casino or whatever, don't worry about it. And Stone Age Park is something like we saw those, the movies, the cartoons, the Flintstones. So people nowadays, they tend to go back to nature, back to basics. So it's a place for them to release themselves, all right? Just back to the normal. There's no handphone, there's no laptop. Just be yourself. And then a natural healing where you plant your own plants and all that, so you have a place to detox yourself. A green heaven where a lot of this plantation or bonsai will be planted there and will endorse or adopt by all these world celebrities or world famous people. So all these plants that signed and then planted, after like 1-2 years, you go for auctions and all that for charity purpose. So it's a very good movement, right, for charity. And then of course our wedding centers. Actually, Bali is one of the preferred place to a lot of these who's who, the world famous people, to go there to spend their money for their weddings. The reason weddings ceremony that by one of the Hong Kong actors, I think he spent about 100 million just to have his wedding. So it's a place that actually have a lot of natural attractions. So it's a place that we don't want to miss for this wedding component as well. And of course, part of it will be a movie production plant. It's about 100 acres of land, because you see a lot of these places, right? People have to do artificial background or on the beach and all that. But Bali provide a very natural, flawless place to do shootings. So it's also a place that you can go there, you can see the real shooting. Maybe you can be part of this part-time actor, actress. So when you look at the whole development, right, by having the vision to be the world's first energy city and also green city, basically you add value to the development. Remember the whole property development life cycle, why the land acquisition so much? Because value being added. There's a lot of conversion, there's a lot of concept to put in. Once it's ready, the property prices will be increased tremendously. And of course, you need to have a world endorsement on this project. Recently, April in Bali, there's a Global Leadership Award that took place, and this project basically received the awards being excellent in world first energy cities or positive energies. And the presenter himself actually is a vice chairman of a Parliament House, but also he is so excited on these projects because it's also the government initiative to develop the whole northern part of Bali. There's a lot of mega development are taking in place, building the highways from the south connecting to the north, building a floating airport on the north. Because when it comes to property investment, as a developers, we need to know connectivity play a very important role. Without connectivity, whatever projects that you have in a very rural areas, it will kill the excitement of people to travel hours and hours just to reach your place. That's why connectivity is very important. And of course, you receive all the coverage, not only on the offline and online. In these magazines and all that, basically you can Google, you can see a good write-up on these projects. Sorry. And strategy partners are basically we team up with the world leaders, and being NCM, actually we are very proud to be the exclusive global marketing and branding advisor for these huge projects. And of course, being investment company, we also have our own trustees to secure our members, okay, our Global Investment Club members to participate in these projects. And you'll be surprised when all these lands are actually already been charged to the land, to MCM Trust. So basically all our investors are getting back-to-back security on the land. And of course, this whole joint development that we're talking from the first slide until today is a Sharia compliance. Because when it comes to all these global markets, especially market like Indonesia, in Malaysia, in Middle East, Sharia compliance is play a very important role. So for our Muslim friends, rest assured it's a Sharia compliance, is using a Musharaka arrangement. And then of course, the world brands like Sanderson, basically they're very famous in their architect entertainment component design. They are the one who designed Universal Studio, World Disneyland, and all this. So basically, we have a talking to them. The most, what do you call it, the attracted points for them to come into this project, to look into this project, is because they see this as a challenge for them to build the world's first energy tower. They've been designing the 6-star hotels, the theme park for ages. So it's something they're going to challenge the skills. But once it's built, basically when it becomes a reality, it will also put a very good achievement to all the parties that are involved. And our strategy developers are like Everbright Internationals Construction. Basically, when you talk about all these developers, the turnkey developers, they want to participate in a place that it leave a legacy also to their own portfolios, to their profiles. And of course, our another strategy partners in the film productions. Okay, Mr. Samson Yuan, also the project director in the Luster films. Basically, when you look at this whole development, when you look at the initial concept plan, there's no movie production plan, but because there's a huge demand for the Chinese to build universal movie production plant in Southeast Asia, because there's so many interesting cultures, whatever in Southeast Asia. So they also want to take the opportunity to have 100 acres of this movie production plant as well, right? And these things were actually already been released, all right, already been announced during the Asia Entertainment Medias, right? It received a huge response from them, all right? Because you just imagine there's one movie production plant that you can see Hollywood, you can see Bollywood, you can see Chinawood, and also this Hong Kong TVB and all that. So it's a mixed culture of entertainment. When you look at the whole investment, basically it's a perfect investment. In terms of location, perfect. In terms of the whole concept, tremendous, all right? And security, backed by land charge, backed by the market acquisition, and the return that we are projecting for this investment for the joint development is about 100% in 3 years. Actually, you know that the whole acquisition in Bali, the property, year on year is about 100%. So 100% in 3 years is very conservative. And then the most important is the contribution, not only the contribution to the investors, but also contribution back to the society, especially at the northern part when they need a huge development, when we are contributing a new job opportunity to all the people there. So that's why we look at it as a very perfect investment. So how to participate next? Basically, as a GIC members, okay, our Global Investment Club members, they are our limited partners for this trustee who having the mandate or the land charge for this whole development. And why we structure this as a limited partner, so that as investors, we don't have any responsibility or liabilities shall the project go sour, right? So as a summary, basically as our GIC members, okay, they will remit the investment, the contribution straight to our trust, okay? Then we will give them the trust certificate to secure their contribution. And of course, as a developer, they also will issue a corporate term note to the investors. Basically, this is to safeguard the interests of investors. Because remember, rule number 1 in investment, never lose your capital. So we need to make sure that all the security are in place. So basically, it's a corporate term note that says that within 36 months, you get back your capital plus whatever the agreed return. Right. So when you look at the whole things, how we are able to justify or how we design this at 36 months, you can get back a projected return of about 100%. Basically, the whole land, the value is about 1.8 B. The required seed capital is only about 300 million. So as a developer, right, what this seed capital means, okay, phase 1, it meant for master plan, to get a design, to do feasibility studies, to get a preliminary master plan. So you know that within these 12 months, all your master plan will be ready, right? Then after that, you get an architect, an engineer to do a drawing, to do a BQ and all that. So this will take another 6 to 9 months. There's a lot of amendments, changes, you know, to the best interest as a developers. And then we have to submit for application, development order and all this. Again, when we talk about property investment or property development in Southeast Asia, connections or who you know is very important. That's why we talk about all these landowners, you know, getting the endorsement or approval from the top, play a very important role in these projects. All right, we don't want to become a white elephant projects. We want to turn this into a flagship project that make every Balinese will be proud of it. Okay, and then of course, once you have all this in place, basically we tender for the turnkey contractors. Just now you see one of the example like this, a China Everbright. Basically what we'll do is once we have the master plan, we have the drawing, we have the costing, then we will do an open for tender. So whoever the winners, basically they will construct based on the cost. So it will be a joint development basis with another developers. I give you a very good example, like UEM in Iskandar. They are the master developer, they are the master planner. So they will do a master plan. Maybe a part of it is a Danga Bay, maybe part of it is Medini and all that. So once you have the concept plan and master plan, that's where the foreign developers will come into the development, joint venture together and share the profit together. So once all these are in place, that's where the sales and marketing will take place. Same as any developers, basically is the off-the-plan sales. So once you have the off-the-plan sales, basically that's where we're able to sell to the whole world. And you look at the main reason why we are getting like some of the renowned or world famous developers like Everbright or potentially Country Garden or whatever, just that they have a followers. So when it comes to sales and marketing, you know that you don't face a lot of challenges, especially when you deal with all these world brands. There's a confidence when these buyers are dealing with them. So of course, when we talk about the joint development, as investors, basically those who have no experience in development, they don't want to participate in all these uncertainties. That's where in our joint development, we also put a buyback arrangement in place. So regardless of the status of the projects, either it's halfway through or in a application status or whatever, there is a buyback undertaking from the developers that will pay back our members and also our limited partners. 36 months, you get back your capital plus a projected return of about 100%. So all these are stated clearly in the Musharaka agreement. Because as a joint developer or as a private equity investors, basically we want to safeguard the interest, the best interest of ourselves. So when you look at the whole joint development investment, what are the risks? Basically, there are a lot of risks as a developers, but we try to minimize one by one. So when you look at the whole entire joint development in this particular Bali projects, we foresee that one thing, maybe during these 2 years or 3 years, there's an earthquake, the whole island sank and all that, right? That is a natural disaster, nothing much we can do. And second is the currency risk, because when we invest in foreign countries, let's say we are using US dollar or Sing dollar or NZD, so there's a potentially a risk on this currency, but it also can be a gain for this currency, especially like 3 years back, 4 years back, when we start to invest in overseas using a Sing dollar. At the time it's only about, let's say a Malaysian, at the time it's only about 2.2, 2.3, but today it's already about 3. So from the property development investment and all that, you get a good return of 10-20% a year. From the currency gain, you make another 10-20% per year. Basically, we are making about 20-30% a year, which you don't see if you invest in a local currency and getting back a local return. So that's where the foreign investment also gives that opportunity. And rest assured that all these joint development agreement between the developers, between our global investment club, and also the landowners are already been executed basically only end of the April. Okay, that's why it's very new in the market, and also stated very clearly on the buyback undertaking, 36 months you get back a 200% return. All right, and the land basically already been charged to our trust. So whatever we put in our money, basically we know that we are having a 100% okay asset as a collaterals.
Thanks for the sharing, Max. I believe investing in a development is quite a new concept to everyone. So for those who are keen to know more about the Bali development project, do sign up your interest for the Bali preview via www.rapidpropertyconnect.com/Bali. The preview will be held on the 2nd of July, 8 p.m. at MCM office in Plaza Munkiara.
So during our events, let's say our private preview on the Bali, okay, you can attend, and also you can share together. Okay, we will share together with you on how to be a global investors, and also on these Bali projects that potentially you can make a very good return of about 100% in 3 years. Okay, with as little as only 10,000 Sing dollar or US dollar. So I think that's how my presentation on these projects. So I would like to pass back the things to Steffi.
Thanks for watching the video, and we hope that you have learned something from it.